Добрий день, шановні колеги.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. We start the briefing. Patients and doctors unite to protect Ulyana Suprun, our guest Dmytro Sherembey, chairman of the coordinating board of the charitable organization 100% Life, and Ivanenko, executive director of Patients of Ukraine, Zelensky, director of the charitable foundation Blood Drop Cancer Patient, Alyona Pohtel, mother of a child with primary immunodeficiency, Igor Zastavny, rural family doctor by Skype, and Violetta Liyka, family doctor, expert of the public organization Platform of Health, Sergei Dmitriev, executive secretary of social service of all Ukrainian councils of churches and religious organizations. Please, you are given the floor. So first, I would like to tell you about the topic of our press conference. Here we put on doctor's clothes, and we are all people who are patients, and we wear these patients' gowns, and we are patients' organizations, priests, doctors. We gathered here on this scene in order to protect our right for health. And on the 15th of February, there will be a court hearing. Over 25 million of people who now got the possibility to have health care with human face, the changed system. And I have this subpoena and to the court, and 25 million Ukrainians will get this subpoena, and they should come to the court and protect their future. Now I would like to give the floor to each speaker who are here with me, and the first is chairman of the Patients of Ukraine, Executive Director Ivanenko. Good afternoon. I represent Patients Organization that initiated the most successful anti-corruption reform in the healthcare sector, the reform of procurement of medicines and vaccines. And headed by Ulyana Suprun, the ministry was able to spread this reform and efficiently implement it, and to fight corrupt schemes on procurement, and to transfer the procurement of the medicines to authoritative international organizations. These are not simple medicines. These are medicines from difficult diseases, HIV, hepatitis, and other diseases. It is impossible to provide these medicines by patients, and this should be provided by the state. And it is important for patients to have these medicines and money for these medicines. And about 40% of patients, about 40% of money were embezzled, and now the accounting chamber says that 39% of money for centralized procurement are saved. And why it is so? Because there is no corruption, and the ministry created the clear and transparent and understandable rules of the games, procedures that are of interest to the suppliers. They provide competition, and there is when there is competition, when there are many players on the market, the price decreases. And for us, it means that procurements of more medicines for patients are possible now. And in the result, now we have the situation that some medicines are cheaper 67 times. 90% of oncology medicines now are bought at a cheaper price, and twice they increased the financing for adult oncology. And for the first time in Ukraine, all vaccines are available according to the state calendar of vaccination. And for the first time in the history of Ukraine, all the patients have access to stent systems for heart attacks, against heart attacks. And due to this reform, we were able to, the ministry is able to provide adult patients with juvenile arthritis and primary immunodeficiency. Previously, they bought these drugs only for children. And because of the decision of District Administrative Court, now the provision of medicines to the regions is blocked, and this is a huge problem for patients because there should be a signature on the document to allow these medicines and drugs to the region. Now these medicines are stored in the storage facility, but they cannot be brought to hospitals and to patients. And these are vaccines against measles. Everyone waits for, and to treat hepatitis, for children's oncology. And there are many important medicines. And due to the paralyzed system, it is impossible to bring these medicines to the regions. And now, today, together, we gathered here in order to call on the President, the Prime Minister, head of the Verkhovna Rada, to protect changes that are happening and now in the sphere of healthcare. And we ask them to take important and simple decision according to the procedure to appoint in the Verkhovna Rada to appoint Ulyana Suprun, the Minister of Healthcare.
Ivan Zelensky blood drop fund. Here we see the big community of people who are related to this problem. I am a head of the blood drop fund. In 2009, I became a cancer patient. I have cancer of blood, but for my full-fledged life, I need to eat pills every day. And I remember every healthcare minister from 2009, I remember Ms. Bogotyryova. I remember the gap in supplies of tablets in 2013, 2014. Now we have an adequate minister who has been able to organize a team which improved the supplies and closed the gaps which were in supplies of medical preparations. The global statistics of oncology is grave. Every fourth male and every sixth woman will become oncological patient, and those people who are now subject to chemical or radiological therapy, they think only about how to survive. And when they see that this ruling is adopted by the court, that Ms. Ulyana Suprun will be prevented from performance of her duties as the acting minister, this means for them that they will lose the chance to survive. So I would like to call on all people who can mend this situation, and to all those who are related to the situation, and to return Ms. Ulyana Suprun to her position. Some persons they have children with grave diseases, and among others is Miss Alyona Pohtel, whose child has a primary immunodeficiency, so her child can die any moment. Good afternoon. My name is Pohtel Alyona, and my son has a rare form of primary immunodeficiency, Hitson syndrome. The only chance for my child's survival is therapy, and this therapy includes skin red drug. I have this box sample with me, and I wish to know person to get the knowledge how to buy the drug when you do not have money, when you collect funds from volunteers, when your child needs this drug as air for breathing. So thanks to new program of international procurement. Last year, my son for the first time got this drug for state money. And here you see a syringe. There's the drugs in syringe. And I used it today. And this injection provided today my child with the chance to live yet another day. So this ban on Miss Suprun performance of her duties is just the chance to use ill children for manipulations. We will have one Skype connection, and we also now give the floor to Violetta Liyka, a doctor. I am a doctor. My name is Violetta Liyka. The new healthcare reform, it unfolded the wings of doctors, those doctors who use the opportunities provided by new reform. They can professionally develop, but not only survive. Several years ago, we even didn't hope for simple licensing or opening private practices and becoming private practitioners, and it was made possible by Miss Suprun as a minister and her team, and I support her appointment to become the minister. And there are also big systems which provide assistance in spiritual and health problems, and I'm glad that Reverend Sergei Dmytro is with us today. I am a secretary executive for the Church's assembly, and I represent here the Orthodox confession and also Protestant and Greek Catholic and Roman Catholic and Muslims and Jewish church, because all of us work in the hospitals, not from talks but from our own experience, because we here are very wise, because all of us are patients, and all of us come to see doctors, and when the reform started, all the religious community had hopes that now health of a patient, a person, is in focus of attention. Now the situation against Ulyana Suprun is a crime against every patient in Ukraine. We should join and NGOs should join. And being a priest, I would like to call on all our supporters to support Ms. Suprun, and on February 15th come to the ministry to support her. And now Igor Zastavny, Skype connection. He is a doctor from the village center, medical center. Do you hear me? Yes. Thank you. I will be short. When this event happened, I cannot stand from declaring my position. 5 years ago, I didn't think that I can become private practitioner, and I would like to thank Ms. Ulyana Suprun and her team in the ministry for the changes and to declare my support to her. If today we will not finalize the reform, then the reform can roll back, and we can roll back to scratch again when our doctors will outflow, migrate to other countries, and if the reform stops at this stage at which it is today. In fact, we here represent all people who support the reform. We have 25 million of supporters of healthcare reform. 24,000 of doctors signed contracts with patients, and more than 1,500 clinics. So 60% of the country, they are thinking what will happen with this reform and support the reform. And there are two persons in this country, the president and the prime minister. They can decide what future we will have, whether Ms. Suprun will be the minister or not. This is our appeal to the president and prime minister. I know that many people got the summons, and we know from our own experience how we were close to death in previous years because of the lack of drugs. And now please ask your questions if you have any. Anton Goloborodko, 24th TV channel. On 15th of February, the court sittings will start, and if the decision is taken that Ulyana Suprun was the minister unlawfully for 2 years, what do you think? Is it threatening to the reform in healthcare for 2 years? Because then all her decisions will be deemed unlawful. Yes, this is done not for suspending her from her position. This is made just to make her decisions null and void. So we may not afford this to happen. What is the situation with life with important medicines which supplies can save lives of patients? Yes, this system, the deliveries to regions of drugs is now frozen because only minister can sign these documents for deliveries of drugs. She does not have powers to delegate her powers powers because she has no right to act as a minister. The situation is critical because the whole period when there is no minister or acting minister in the ministry, all this period, no deliveries of drugs will be around the country. STB TV channel, there is an opinion among MPs of Ukrainian parliament. This is not the majority's opinion. If any candidature will be put for voting in the parliament and the parliament is to approve this candidature of a minister, whether it is Ms. Suprun or any other persons, it will not collect enough votes for approval. How you will act then? There is a person who invited her to the position of acting minister. This is a president, so the court should initiate claims against the president and the prime minister. They are the addressees, but not Ms. Ulyana Suprun. So this is a question to the ear, because Ms. Ulyana Suprun has not appointed herself. So these debates in court, they are very controversial because Mr. President and Mr. Prime Minister, they invited her to be a minister and appointed her, so they should appoint her a minister. This is a myth. When this happened, TV channel Zik, in administrative court we got explanation that she cannot function, cannot take part in minutes because she is not an acting minister and she has not defined the strategic lines of national policy, but she has the right of signature. So, what is the difference between the rights of the first deputy and of acting minister? Well, we got the same explanation, but let the court to provide this explanation in writing, because broad insights into this decision could be their decision is unlawful because they stopped her from performance of her duties, from working. Before the decision is made, which will be on February 15th, we do not understand what decision the court will issue on Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday. They are unpredictable. The court behaves unpredictably. There are no questions, so we can comment, we can provide our comments individually, on individual basis. Thank you.
Саме цікавить питання підпису пані Уляни Супрун.